Anger is a very strong emotion for me. I get angry at little things. So I'd like to say annoyed or frustrated at little things. But then there's higher levels where you get angry. Now, typically, when I sim race, I like to say I just get annoyed or frustrated. Well, last night, I can't lie to you, I was pissed off. Uh, I was running Maverick Night in America at Road America, and everything was going great. Got the pole, was ready to go racing. Figured maybe one caution, maybe not. Was going to be in a good spot. And then fourth place on the grid, missed his braking zone and had ABS kick in and took out me and my fellow front row sitter, Joshua Mercurio. And from there, the night kind of continually got worse. I essentially went from starting first to starting last. Then another teammate of mine spun out off of turn 3. And instead of just sitting there and waiting for everyone to go by, he tried to shoot a gap and get back going out of the way. And instead, he shot the gap right in front of me. So then I hit him, and I had damage for the rest of the night. They did not bother trying to fix it on the first pit stop. But before even I got to my first pit stop, same lap, coming to finish the lap, I pass a guy, think I'm good, going in the corner, hit my braking zone for the final turn. And then he claims his screen froze. Almost takes me out. I save it, and then I had just had enough. I door slammed that guy down the front straightaway into the wall. Somehow we didn't wreck, and from there I just started charging, and everything went great after that, but wasn't able to come away with the win. Damage, I think, hurt me more than I thought it was, and Jack Merkel came away with the win, and he doesn't have auto clutch turned on, so he actually gains a tiny bit, saving time on the shifts. But the one time I tried to race with auto clutch off, I blew a gear on like lap 1 and then got lucky there was a race restart. So I'm good. I'm just going to leave auto clutch on. Anyways, welcome to Who's That Driver special 2-week episode, or 2-episode week, I should say. And this week I'm joined by the one called the bitch, Michael Norman. Michael, what's good, bro?
That's only by you.
You call me one.
But yes, exactly. So that's why you're the only one that calls it back. So, well, other than RJ, but yeah, I mean, I'm doing good, feeling good today. You know, I'm a little disappointed about what happened to me in the race last night. I should have had a third place finish, but you know, it happens. So I'm so far out of the championship that I'm literally just there to try to win races and or just have fun if that's possible. But you know, it is what it is. So.
Oh, so do tell what happened to you. I forget if it was you and Trey battling or if it was something else that happened there at the end.
Well, it was me and Trey battling. We were really having a great race. Like, and that's really hard to say with Trey, with everyone knows how Trey races. But we were having a great battle. We were trying to pass a lapped car. Rather than just yielding the position, he decided to just go a little bit slower. And right as we caught him into a fast right-hander, he crowded Trey, which knocked Trey up into me and spun me out.
Ah, damn.
And then as I did a 360 in the gravel, I kind of nosed it into the tire barrier, which is an automatic killer.
Yep. Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, especially at the end. I was all upset because everything was at the beginning. And then, thankfully, towards the end, it went fine. But, yeah, just a very angry, frustrating night for me personally. Couldn't even really be happy with the second place just because of circumstances. But if I was racing for the championship, I probably would have been a little happy. I'd be like, yeah, I still got second. That's good for the championship. But I was just there to win. So a second place didn't mean nothing to me. Maybe Cody cares a little about his owner points since I've been racing for Cody Lamas. But otherwise, I don't
think Cody honestly cares. I'll be completely
probably
honest
not.
With you.
He might have cared. He might have cared for Sonoma and Kansas when I won. Well, Kansas, I drove Seth's car, but yeah, Sonoma, he might have cared the first one because that was 2 in a row. But yeah, otherwise, probably not. But before we get more into NR 2003, Michael, let's start with you and what got you into motorsports, who your first favorite driver was, who it is now if it's changed, and your favorite form of motorsports.
form as in like what racing
NASCAR,
series?
Formula One, IndyCar,
Oh,
yeah,
I
League
gotcha. I
series, yeah.
gotcha. All right. Well, let's see. Starting with the first one, what got me into racing was actually my parents. I was a big wrestling nerd back in the day. So honestly, I didn't even know or knew NASCAR existed until like 1998. And one of my first races I watched was actually the 1998 Daytona 500. So I got to witness Dale Earnhardt win his first 500, and at that point, he immediately became my favorite driver. Um,
All right, we finally
and
got a Dale fan on the show. We just have Gordon, Gordon, Gordon so much, so do continue.
it, yeah, I liked. I really liked the way he raced. You know, he didn't race as aggressively in his later years as he did when he like in the early '90s and stuff. So, I just thought he was still really cool and stuff. So even when I started watching, it was around the time where he didn't really win a lot. But I saw Jeff Gordon, and I associated his rainbow color scheme with who he was as a person, if that makes sense to you. So yeah, that was a little fun little jab in the family about Jeff Gordon. Actually, I didn't attend my first race until 2003, but in a rare thing, my parents actually went to the 2001 Budweiser shootout. So I was a little too young, I guess, at the time to go with them. So they had to wait till 2003, which then I witnessed Dale Earnhardt Jr. winning, to which then he obviously became my favorite driver after that. I want to say 2002 was about the first year I actually got into watching like the full season of NASCAR every Sunday, being by the TV every Sunday. Um, so obviously I have a big love for the Gen 4 cars, especially the ones they just put out on iRacing now. Um, I used to have a way bigger collection than I do now, but that was back when we could afford things before inflation.
Oh yeah, good old inflation.
Yep. Um, I used to play a lot of racing games. I think my first PC racing game was NASCAR Racing 3. My uncle had it, so every time I would go over to my uncle's house, I'd be playing it on his makeshift computer. It's the first time I actually ever used a wheel too, because he used to have a little wheel would clamp onto your desk with a little shifter attached to it. So that was fun. I had a very active imagination growing up as a kid. So, needless to say, it didn't take very much playing to fully immerse myself into the realm of NASCAR. um, and as for, I mean, I watch all. If I can catch a couple of Formula One races, I used to be big into it in the early 2010s, and then I kind of just drifted apart when I realized that all F1 is just whoever has the most money has the fastest car, and that's roughly about it.
Mm,
I,
yeah.
I could say that I learned a lot of my road course abilities, as strange as this is gonna sound, through playing F1 games. Like I used to play from like F1 2010 on up to I think it was like 2015, 2016, and I realized that going from the console F1, where you can brake late, shift down a lot, and using your shift down to be able to slow your car down quicker for a turn, I could transfer over to NR.
Huh.
Now, I mean, I'm not as great as you are, but like I'm learning. Like even you could say I held myself pretty well at Road America this weekend in Maverick, but I don't know how it happened. I used to be terrible at road courses. Hated them so much, like in the old NASCAR Thunder series and everything. But then, like after I played a lot of F1 games, I suddenly started getting a lot better at them, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, they take a lot of practice, right? Because it's not, oval is just turn the wheel, lift a little bit, maybe put in a tiny amount of brake, and then you you roll through the set to the center a little bit, and then you're back in the gas, and then you're just steering the car off the corner, and you're worried about the right front. Road course, there's a ton of more technique to it. There's trail braking, which can be a big key to helping slow the car down while you're downshifting. It's not just about slamming the brake and then engine braking it down with the downshifts. You also want to like trail brake a bit, because if you kick a little bit of gas into it while you're braking, it actually helps slow the car down faster. So that can allow you to brake like that 50, 100 feet later. And then it keeps the car more planted too under braking. So then, of course, when you're going through the corner, there's a little bit of technique with the throttle as well, like playing with the throttle before you just completely mash it. And then you're just also trying to keep the wheel as straight as possible off the corner. Kind of like dirt track racing in a way, like as far as NR goes, like dirt tracks coming off the corner, you want to try to keep the wheel as straight as possible too. To maintain your
Yep.
momentum, and it's the same with road courses. It's just you're on asphalt instead of the dirt. So it's all technique, and then depending on the setup. Like last night's setup, we had to worry about the front tires burning off, as opposed to typically you want to worry about the rears, and so you want to be smooth with the rears, so that you save your rear grip, so you can just keep putting the gas down right off as soon as you can coming out of a corner, as opposed to having to kind of wait until you're going in a straight line. And then, last night we were trying not to turn the wheel as much through the center, because if we did, we would burn the front tires off that extra, 3 to 5%. And then by the end of the run, you would just be tight, tight, tight.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when you lose your drive off the corner, or the ability to put the gas down as early as you want, that becomes the biggest issue on road courses.
Yep. And
You
the
start getting a lot slower.
and the rumbles on this game actually kind of help you get through the corner. So if you can stick 2 tires on the rumbles through the corner, it actually kind of helps pull you through the corner, and then you just have to try to like hit the gas and keep the wheel straight so that you don't spin out by using the rumble, because some of the rumbles are actually hazardous. They have too much grip and they spin you out. But for like Road America last night, and even Sonoma a month ago, like hitting those rumbles correctly was a big gain in lap time.
Yeah, I noticed that into the race too. I didn't do that great in qualifying. Still qualified top 3, which is exactly what I wanted to do, because it made getting off a pit road easier when I could just floor it. But and we had a good battle off of pit road too. The last pit stop, actually, me and you had a great battle coming off of pit road.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a squeeze.
Yeah, but but it's that give and take. You don't want to just let off and then be behind somebody. No, if there's a gap, you place your car there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yes, you got to be smart about it. I mean, if it's like lap 3, you don't want to do that. But when it's getting close to the end or that final pit stop, I mean, you passed me anyways, but you still got to at least try. And I actually, thanks to that incident that happened on the first lap with you, I actually ended up leading the most laps of that race.
Yeah,
11, I think. At 11
it was actually
out of 25.
funny. I was looking at the Tarnation broadcast just at the end to see the export, and I literally did not lead a lap until I took the lead from Trey after the final pit stop cycle, and then I only held the lead for 2 laps until Jack got by me. And but I think the whole part of the give and take that was really cool last night too is at one point, Jack and I were having a miserable time. Jack had just gone off the track himself because someone accidentally shoved him off. And then, he was saying, oh, good win. And that got me hot because I'm like, man, I still got to catch Josh. Josh is still 10 seconds up the road. This was before he had gone off track himself. And, so we were arguing with each other about it. And I was just like, this ain't working. Let's just shut up and drive our cars and we'll see what happens. But then so like 10 laps later at the end of the race, we're over that. And, we had both pit on the same lap. And we're behind Trey, and I'm like, get by Trey and then fight it. And Jack's like, yep. And I'm like, all right. And so then like Jack didn't push the issue, and he just waited until we were able to
Trey
get by Trey. Yeah, Trey overdrove one corner. So and that's like the thing. That's the cool thing about being one of the fastest guys now, right? Is 8 years ago, you would be the one who's like, oh shit, like there's a really fast dude coming up behind me, and like I don't want to just let him go, so like I gotta hit my mark, and then you overdrive the corner and you go off track and you let him by anyway. And so now as the fast guy, knowing what my mentality was as like a 2 second off slower guy, like I know all I have to really do is make him think I'm gonna send it, and he'll overshoot the corner, and then I can just go by. So that was like kind of my mentality there with Jack behind me and Trey in front of me. Was like, okay, like I'm just going to make him think I might dive bomb him if I'm close enough, and then I'll like duck back in line and hit the apex, and that's basically kind of what happened. So a little bit of mind games is another key thing for racing. You got to play the mind games, make a guy think you're gonna send it when you're not.
Yep, I agree with that one. It's throwing it in, but I believe Trey. I don't believe Trey was really going to ever make it on gas because I think he pitted a lap before we did.
Yeah, he would have
So I think
close.
I don't think he was gonna make it because it was It was going to Splash for me.
Yeah, it was going to Splash for me too. I just ignored it.
I did too because I knew that every time we took the lap, I was still a lap to the good, even though it told me Splash. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm pretty good, especially if Zach's not, especially if you weren't complaining about gas because I knew that we pitted on the same lap.
Yeah, I think the last time I looked at my F3, I think I had just taken the lead and I saw it say Splash, but my projected laps was still 1 over laps to go. So I was like, yeah, I'm not worried about that. And I flipped it back to like the F1 or F2 or whatever. So you didn't mention it, but who's your favorite driver now since Junior's been retired?
Well, even before he retired, I had switched in a way. But my current favorite driver is Joey Logano. Among
Oh yeah, that's right.
The controversy.
How could I forget that your favorite driver was Joey Logano when I hate his guts?
You and every other person I hang out with on TeamSpeak, and that's precisely why I like him because, it's like back when everyone hated Gordon. It was cool to be a Gordon fan back in the day. I was one of the people that was watching. I think it was 03 or something. It was a race in maybe it was the 03 All-Star race when he just flat out took out Sterling Marlin. I think it was. It was either that.
Oh really?
It was either the All-Star race there or it was Dover. One of those two races. I remember Sterling Marlin getting wrecked by Gordon just flat out, and I'm just like, wow, this guy is just an asshole. Like he didn't do nothing to deserve that, and I did despise Gordon for a while because of that. But once I got more, grew up a little bit and actually understood the sport in general, I'm like, well, Gordon's accomplished a lot. You don't always have to like him, but I respect what he does and what he did for, when he first got in. And it's the same with Logano. I was a Logano fan way when he made his debut in the Xfinity series back in the day when he got his first win at Nashville. It's like, yeah, he's cocky, he's arrogant, but at the same time, you're not out there to make friends. So, you're out there to do your job. You're out there to win races. And yes, I'm not a Logano fan that thinks he's a fucking god. Sorry if I'm not allowed to curse on your podcast.
Yeah, you can curse. You can do whatever you want.
Like I'm not like every Logano fan that thinks he's a god or whatever. Like there's a lot of things I don't agree with that he does. There's a lot of things that I do agree with that he does. Me and Seth always get along, but we can sit down and we can debate between him and Kenseth at Kansas that year. Okay, yeah, Logano already had a win, so there was no reason really for him to push, trying to pass Kenseth. That's great, but you're also still trying to win a race. You're in position to win a race. It's difficult to pass as it is, and Kenseth threw a block. I think it was at least twice down that whole front straightaway, and Logano gave him a shove going into the corner, and it ended up getting him sideways and spinning him out. But at the same time, I was laughing my ass off when Kenseth paid him back at Martinsville. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, I hate Kenseth. He did that. He's so stupid. Worst driver ever. No, it's not how it works. It was funny. Did I think Logano deserved it? Probably not. But at least in my opinion. But it was still funny as hell. But everyone's like, oh, Logano this, Logano that. Guess what? The guy is great because he's adapted to this format. It used to be where to win a championship, you had to be the most consistent person out there. Now you have to win a race just to even make it into the playoffs, to even have a shot at winning the championship. And he focuses more of his attention on trying to get a win. And once he gets a win to lock himself in, then he just starts going with gutsy calls. And then when the playoffs start is when he really focuses. Yes, last year I will admit to say that he probably shouldn't have won that championship because he was knocked out.
Thank you, Alex Bowman.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Alex Bowman's getting disqualified, then Logano would not have been anywhere near that championship.
Would have been Blaney 2 years in a row.
Yeah, yes, it would. It would have been Blaney 2 years in a row.
Because we knew Penske was gonna be the team to beat if they got, Blaney or Logano into Phoenix, so we knew that was going to be the case. I personally,
I would not have been upset either way. How that went down.
yeah,
I would have been slightly bummed if Logano had lost, but at the same time, like those two were fighting it.
yeah. I won't discredit Logano's talent because he has won more than 35 races, and it takes a lot to win, that many races. But I do wish. I think they're probably. It sounds like, they've been floating it around. I think they're gonna make the final round the 3-race round. Now, what that entails for the rest of the playoffs, I don't know. I think the easiest thing for them to do would be to just move the playoffs forward 2 races, and you would have a 24-race regular season and a 12-race playoff, and then just each round is 3 races, and you crown a champion.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Crown a champion at the end of the 3-race final 4. And, it'll be by points. If they want to throw an incentive of, hey, if you win the race, you get 10 bonus points, like that would be cool too. But however they want to do it, I think that would be probably their best way to keep the current format and then add in where points matter a little more.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say if you want to combine it, do it that way. Make it to where the last race isn't just a 1-race thing, where just whoever finishes higher is the champion. No, make it the 3 races because it's easier. 3 or maybe 4 if you want to get real critical about it. Make it to where consistency in the final round. Bring it it's a hybrid of the old system and the new system. Consistency.
Yeah, I think if they were going to do a final round, I think the final round should be, and it don't matter in what order, but it should be Phoenix, because Phoenix deserves to be at the end of the season. They have the great facility and everything. You have Phoenix in there somewhere, Homestead, and then honestly, they should go to Sonoma or Coda. I know they'll probably just go to Martinsville instead, but I think it would be cool if there was at least one road course. As much as I hear a ton of people say, no, don't throw a road course in, because then 2 or 3 of the final 4 might just be out to the wind at that track. Well, get better, get over it, deal with it. They raced at Riverside for the finale for years in the 80s, for years until it became Atlanta. They can do it. They can stick a road course in the last 3 races of the season.
I agree with that. I feel like maybe Final 4 give us one of each style racetrack, a road course, a short track, a quad oval, and maybe a super speedway. Throw Talladega in there. Move Talladega. Be Talladega, maybe Sonoma. Oh, I don't know. Would Sonoma be good? Wouldn't that be around the time where the grass would be green instead of just dirt?
That would be. That's why it would be perfect. Stick Sonoma at the end of the year and the grass is green.
They used to run Sonoma back when the grass was still green. So, and before they switched it, I think
early
in the late 90s.
Yeah, they used to run it around April to May when the grass was still pretty green.
Yeah. So, and then I kind of like Martinsville. I'm not gonna lie. I think we could get a less boring race at Martinsville than we would at Bristol. So I would that, or maybe no. I don't know about North Wilkesboro. That's
and Phoenix
kind of boring lately.
Phoenix uses the short track tire too, so.
So then, then Phoenix, yes.
I would say Phoenix, Homestead, and
Sonoma.
Because I feel Phoenix, like if you... Sorry. I feel like...
No, you're good.
Sonoma would be better than Coda because they've run at Sonoma for years and years and years, so everyone has experience at it. To where, even guys oh, man, I'm drawing a blank. Truex was always good at Sonoma and the Glen, but when they went to Coda, Truex wasn't really his cup of tea. He wasn't good enough on the technical. And I've noticed that too with some of the guys in NR. Dunlap is a great road course guy if you stick him on a track that doesn't have a ton of turns or technical turns. And he's still really good on the technical tracks. But typically he's more of a threat on the the Glens, the Sonomas, the tracks that get run a lot, versus you go to Coda or Mexico, depending on the setup, he might struggle. Now he was great at fast at Mexico on Sunday until he lost a gear, but at Coda he wasn't quite there at Coda. So it can be there are guys like that who just don't figure out a certain road course. But so if it's going to be a road course in the final 3 races, it should be Sonoma, because you're not going to go to New York at the end of October in Watkins Glen. Like, that'd be cold.
Yeah. So then I got another question for you. That would be, how would you feel about NASCAR expanding to other foreign tracks besides just Mexico and Canada?
I think
Like,
they should definitely go to Brazil, because as you and I know, we see a good amount of Brazilians racing on NR 2003, Brazilians and Colombians, alike. So I think going to what's the track called? Interlagos. Is
yeah,
that the Brazilian
maybe
track?
a shortened version of Interlagos. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all those road courses have shortened layouts. I mean, and they don't even have to like shorten it too much. Like for Mexico, they just kind of took away 3 turns that were really slow and tight, and they just made the one sweeping right-hander instead. So they wouldn't have to change too much.
Yeah, I didn't know they never ran the stadium before. They used to run the
Right.
whole that last little long
They would.
carousel
Yep.
style turn, which in a way I think is better with the stadium section now, because that can add more seats and everything for people to watch. But I kind of think that maybe they should go back to either Suzuka or Twin Ring Motegi as a race, or maybe both if they could ever fit that in the schedule. Like they only ever did that as an exhibition race. Well, I would love to see a points paying race go to like Twin Rings or the Suzuka circuit. Maybe not the full circuit, but it would definitely be maybe a bigger circuit than just a short one that they had for the that was literally just like 2 turns and then S's. That was about it.
Yeah, right on.
But I would love to see that. And like you said, at Brazil too, didn't there used to be an Indy or a Champ Car track in Brazil way back in the early 2000s?
I have no idea. I'd have to research it.
Yeah, it would definitely be something to think. Maybe even like London, maybe Silverstone. Would that be interesting?
Yeah, Silverstone, I think they could run the full layout.
Let them run the Nordschleife track in Germany.
Yeah. That would be
3 laps. Whoever's the last one to survive wins.
that would be 8 minutes a lap. Gosh, they would have to put cameras everywhere. That would be awful for them.
It would be just all on board. It would just be all on boards.
Yeah, just on boards. Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Either that or just have a blimp, have like 3 blimps and 2 or 3 helicopters just chasing the field.
yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, that would be it opens the realm of possibilities. Like I would not mind seeing NASCAR expand if they're talking about making this sports entertainment. That that falls under more wrestling than it would be than you would think racing. But gimmicks are probably some of the worst that you would ever think of. And racing just needs to be racing. I mean, Richard Petty I didn't really hear the full interview that he gave, but just recently talked about how pretty much he didn't think it was right that Shane Van Gisbergen gets into the playoffs and he's like back in like the top 30 in points, and all because he won a road course. I mean, that's a little bit hypocritical because
it's the same thing with Harrison Burton winning a super speedway. I mean, it's just the format.
Yeah. It's the format, yes, but it's also a little bit hypocritical too. Because remember when Marcus Ambrose won those couple times driving for Richard Petty, and yes, the format wasn't quite the same, and I don't think he necessarily made the top 10 in the points those years.
He was top 20 though. He was around top 20. Ambrose was a lot better. Like, I mean, granted, the way the cars drove was different back then too. Like, I think if you had SVG in a Gen 6 car, I think he'd be running better sooner on the ovals, because dirty air in these cup cars is just so bad.
Yeah, I mean, even on the plate tracks, it's all about the inexperience. He's used to running the V8 supercars, which makes him a good, just like AJ Allmendinger or Michael McDowell on the road courses. But get him in an oval track, and it took Robbie Gordon forever to even win his first race on an oval track. And he didn't even. I think he won 3 races in his Cup Series career. He won once at New Hampshire, and then twice in 2003 at both of the road courses.
Yeah, Sonoma and Watkins Glen. Yeah, and fittingly, that one oval win came at New Hampshire, because What is New Hampshire? A flat track. You know what I got better at after I got good at road courses? Flat tracks. Because it's basically like going into a road course corner. Because it's so flat.
Yeah, you can throw it in there and let it coast pretty much half of the corner before picking the throttle back up.
Yep, and you
Yeah,
diamond it. Yep.
yep.
Just got to
You
worry
know,
about the right front. That's it.
pretty much, yeah, and that's on most of the tracks, anyways.
Yeah,
You know,
but in New Hampshire, that right front gets hot if you push it too much. And if you're behind someone and it gets hot, forget any chance of getting by the guy in front of you unless he makes a big mistake.
yeah, like for me, I can't make a setup to save my life. That's why I never run leagues with open setup, except for one, and I actually won that one race because I was bored that night. It was an old Craftsman Truck Series race, like the old mod for the game for the NR, and it was open setup. Seth was like, "Oh, just run it, come have fun with us." I'm like, "Okay, fine." And so during practice, I was literally fiddling around with setups, like just even different short track setups, just for the fun of it, right? I was just like, you know what, this is let me just test. So I took a Phoenix setup from a track that I had, and ran it unchanged. I literally just loaded up the Phoenix setup. I was like, okay, let's see how this works. The gearing in that was so good for Martinsville that I led all but one lap in that race, and that one lap was because somebody beat me on a restart to the line.
That's crazy.
Probably the most dominant win I've ever had in NR history, and it was because I was using a Phoenix setup at Martinsville.
Yeah, that's funny. You
Absolutely crazy.
you should talk to Joven. I know you probably, like you said, you're not like too into it, but you should talk to Joven about racing at Bomb Squad. It's open setup. They have so many setups for you to choose from. Like you could do the same thing. You could just load in, download like three, four, five setups, try them all out. Like there's like a good core group of guys there. A lot of them have their own setups uploaded, so you can figure out like what it might be too loose for you, what would be better for you. Like, and I think you would have fun. You might not win very often, but you would have fun, especially with like the truck series they run.
Yeah, I thought about it a lot, but it really depends because I work my real job usually 5 days out of the week, sometimes 6 if I get called in. So a lot of times it's really hard to find time to be able to be home in enough time to race. So that's the only downfall. That's why I'm glad like on Tuesdays, where if I do work Tuesdays, I'm usually home by 4 or 5 o'clock. So I even have time to come in and practice for the tracks for Maverick and everything. And then I used to run a series on Sunday nights that I'm thinking about bringing back. You would know because you raced one
Yes.
of them.
Yep.
I don't ever get. I don't know if Sunday's just a bad night for a lot of people because I don't get a lot of good card counts, and I guess that's kind of
There's a good number of leagues on Sundays, to my knowledge now. Like, there's a lot of different little cliques, and so those little cliques tend to go to.
You mean clicks?
Yeah, clicks, whatever, clicks, cliques, click clack. But you have fast, you have DSRA, which starts at like 10:30. There's Crystal Bennett has a league that's like a small group, but that's a league that's on Sunday. Hobo has their truck series on Sunday, though a lot of those guys don't really race with us anyway. Then there was your league, of course, but there's more leagues on Sunday night than you think, and that's like why like it seems to be so hard to get people. Mondays of Thunder has a truck series on Sunday nights. So sometimes if those guys are racing on Sunday nights in the truck series, they don't show up for fast, but they only really show up for fast if it's like an oval. They don't show up for like the roadies, so
Yeah, you've got a lot of different, like you said, clicks and everything, and if you don't mind, I would definitely like to address that in a way here, because like we have our group of guys. We have the NNSCRA guys. You guys have your fast, your RTG, your bomb squad racing guys. Everybody you guys always hang out with and everything. And it's funny that I want to say this because when the RTG guy, whenever Seth holds his special events, it's open to everybody, everybody. And I know that you don't usually race them because a lot of times they're just on plate and super speedway tracks, and and everyone knows your disdain for super speedway tracks. But and then we have the RTG guys come over. Now, me and Seth, we broadcast, and well, Kyle now too, just recently, we broadcast, their races. And the way that some people, I'm not going to say names, but you should probably know this because we talked about it last night. Some people go on and talk about how, oh well, oh they're just coming over here. They're going to work together. They're going to win the race. They're going to work together. They're not going to help us. Screw us. But it's like, well, don't we do the same thing if we were to go over to one of their races? It's you
Oh
work with
yeah,
whoever you
absolutely,
got.
dude. When
Yeah,
I ran,
you work with whoever you got.
I ran RTG Tally Challenge once or twice. I think I ran Burnt Screwdrivers once, and I might have run Talladega once. I don't really remember. I think I only ran Burnt Screwdrivers though. But anyway, I had zero help the whole night because none of those. I don't race around a lot of those guys at all, and I none of them really knew me, so I had zero help all night. It was like
It's like being
Ryan.
a rookie. It's like being a rookie in the Cup Series in real life.
Well, it was like Ryan Truex Sunday. Ryan Truex Sunday at Mexico. He was like, "Yeah, everyone just
got bullied.
Everyone just used me up because they know I'm not going to be back the rest of the season, so they just used me up all they could." And it's like, yeah, that sounds right.
I laugh because Ryan Truex got bullied hard.
He could have had a top 15 if he didn't get wrecked at one point, and he said the car was good in the rain. So I mean, I know one person who was like, "Oh, Trevor Bayne would have been better," but it's like, brother, Trevor Bayne would have been just as bad. Trevor Bayne would have been getting bullied all damn night too. Like,
yeah. But it's like we don't hold that against them because it's they're used to racing how they race.
Someone was trying to compare Ryan Truex to Corey LaJoie when LaJoie ran the 9 at Gateway, and I was like, this is not a fair comparison whatsoever.
Yeah. But back to this, it's we run. They don't always work together. Yes, would they prefer to? Of course. We know why, because they know each other, they trust each other, they know how they race. Same thing with us on our side. We know how each other race. We know how good, we know how bad some people are, especially those certain ones on controller who can't hold a line on the straight in a super speedway. Yes, that is a subtle jab, but it's all in good humor to a certain driver who drives a number 2 car. But it's
doesn't hold his brake pedal either.
But you pick and choose who you can work with, especially when it comes to super speedways, because you want to be in the fastest line. Like in the RTG tracks, because I just raced 2 races there too when Seth and them were all in Indianapolis for a Memorial Day weekend. I raced the 2 weeks that they were gone. Once at Talladega, once on Burnt Screwdrivers, and yes, it's Lotto Q, so I got the pole in one of them, so I was up in the front a lot. But when you're not, it's really hard to work your way up there because you feel trapped. You don't really want to be on the inside lane because you push up in the corners. You have a better chance at wrecking somebody because you push up, especially if they try to pinch you. The middle lane is just hell because you have people all around you and you're just fighting to even just hold your line. In the outside lane, it's just the slightest little push up, and you're afraid in the high lane because if there's a wreck that happens, it's all going to come up the track first. But they're so equally matched over there that it's hard to just go somewhere. And you always know how they preach patience for super speedways, but you have nothing. There's nowhere to go. You have to pick and choose your battles. So it's definitely tough to get up there, but they race really good.
Right on. So let's circle back a little bit. Let's circle back to the beginning here, as we've been talking about more so the present. But so you mentioned NASCAR Racing 3 at your uncle's. Were you ever able to dabble in NASCAR Racing 4 or 2002, or did you just kind of get into NR 2003 later down the line?
Oh no, I got into NR 2003 later on down the line. I don't think I ever really raced NASCAR Racing 4, but it was NASCAR Racing 3, and then I played a lot of the Thunder games, NASCAR Thunder 03, NASCAR Thunder 04. Which was obviously very fun. I actually raced a lot of and NASCAR Sim Racing. I don't know if you remember that. That was EA Sports' answer to NASCAR Thunder or NASCAR Racing. I played that a lot, and it really wasn't until I discovered Offline Series on NR that I actually even just knew that NR 2003 was a game. to be completely honest, I never knew there was a game called NASCAR Racing 2003 season. You figure I probably would have, because it was probably available in stores, but I never saw it growing up. And plus I also stuck to my PlayStation 2, so I never really played a lot of PC games back then. But once I discovered NR 2003 offline series races, that's when I pretty much joined the community.
What
I
year was
hate to
that?
say 2011, I think, was the first year I started watching offline series. And I really don't want to say who it was that that I started watching, because he's pretty much been blacklisted from the community for several
I
years
think I
now.
know who you're talking about.
Who is it? Who do you think it is?
I don't really remember the name, but I remember there was like a big controversy or something in like
Uh, yeah, it was
2015
the
or so.
PORWC.
Yes, yep.
Yep, Kevin Rabinal. At
Kevin
least that's what
Ravenel.
his real name was. I forget. I think it was like Randy Orton fan something. I think on YouTube at the time. Um, yeah, I discovered his series. I signed up for his series, and it was shortly after that I got in touch, or got a hold of Seth, when we were all in a Skype call back then, and Seth was like, "Oh, you want to be in my offline series too?" I said, "Sure, absolutely." And then I've started hanging out with Seth a lot more than I used to hang out with Kevin. And then of course it came out that he was rigging his races. So, and then to which he then openly admitted to, which I'm actually very glad that he did that. But then he kind of just turned into a hell of a tyrant after that. He disappeared from the NR community, but stayed on Facebook talking about how IndyCar was greater than NASCAR. And it was at some point where I was just like, no, this guy is delusional. But I am I guess I want to say the record holder in the NSCRA for fastest wins in an offline series race from when you make your debut, aside from those when obviously he first started. Because when I signed up for Seth's series back with like the Snickers Cup series, the Mobile One Cup series, and stuff like that, his Oreo truck series back in the day, I won the Xfinity series that he had, the first race at Charlotte. The next week I won the truck race, and then the week after that at Chicagoland I won my first ever Cup race, which was a feat that hadn't been done up until that point. So it's an empty record, but
Mm-hmm.
gotta try to take credit for something. But yeah, Seth and them were my inspirations to even making offline series when I started doing it. And I had a lot of trouble doing it because I didn't have a great computer at the time. So, but it was pretty much then. And then I got my cousin worked a lot of computers, and when I found out before you gave me the EXE, what I found out you had to do in order to even race online at all in the game.
DEP.
Yep, DEP and the secure boot or whatever.
Yeah.
He turned all that off for me, and I surprised people by getting on the track in the next league race. I think it was a Cheez-Its Super Speedway. It was Cheez-Its. It was a Cheez-Its, like the smaller series. Talladega was technically my first race, but I money shifted like the first caution and blew my engine.
Whoops.
So, and then I went on the season finale at Auto Club and won the race.
There you go.
So, yeah, that was fun. That's pretty much what got me into racing NR online.
What year was that you debuted in online?
Oh my god, I can't remember.
16 or 17 maybe?
Maybe.
I feel like that's when it became Cheez-It. It was 16 or 17.
Yeah, it was with the one
because it was Domino's at first.
It was the one where Baker and Jess were battling for the championship.
Yeah, it was probably late 2016, early 2017, if I had guessed the timeline.
Yeah, it was probably around there. I've gone on to amass about 30 or 30 plus. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like 30 plus wins in my NR online career. The most recent victory I had, I think, was Maverick Talladega last year. I don't think I've won a race since then.
So what were you on when you started? Were you on keyboard or controller? I want to say you were on controller, right?
No, I was keyboard when
Okay,
I
you
very
were
first started because I was keyboard on my laptop, which would made it even more difficult.
What were your? Do you remember what your key selections was? I always like to hear
uh,
the interesting selections.
okay, I believe it was A and S or A and D for my shift up, shift down, and then I did 8 4 6 2 for my for my the
Oh,
throttle,
the
the
numpad.
turn, yeah, the number pad for that. I tried
Okay.
using the arrows, but for some reason it wouldn't keybind them.
Yeah, no, the arrow keys are not key bindable. Yeah, you had to use the numpad.
Yeah, so that's what I ended up using. Um, I adapted overall. Then I started once, and then I had my Xbox 360 slash Xbox One. I had a spare controller. I took that plus the plug I used to charge the controllers, and I was just like, what happens if I do this? And I plugged it into my PC, and it was just like, oh, it reads it, and I can race with it. Cool. So I started using that because then I had better throttle control and brake control going into for races. So that helped
Mm-hmm.
out a lot. And then eventually, you ended up selling me a wheel
Yeah, I gave
that
you my used up G920.
yeah, that broke within like a month.
Yeah, the pedals were probably not. The
Yeah, and
potentiometer was probably
yeah,
pretty either.
I saw I saw a video of how to get it to clean it, and I was just like, fuck that.
Yeah, no, that's why I sold it to you for
and then
like
I and then I ended up
$80.
and then I sold it for about just as much. And then I ended up getting what I have now, which is the Thrustmaster wheel.
I remember
Um,
that. So the funny thing to me is, I sold you that wheel, right? And then like before that, I had given my beaten up like dinky PC wheel to Dylan Young, and Dylan didn't
yeah,
even
it didn't
bother
last long
using it.
either.
Yeah, I
No,
don't know if he
I
tried
think
to
he
use it
did.
or
I think
yeah.
he tried to use it for a couple of races because I remember a Talladega race where he was using it. And then I think either something
I
happened to
think the
his PC or
pedals were
something where he
bad too
or
on
yeah,
those.
something. I'm not sure exactly. You'd have to ask him. But and then now I think he's back to using he was back to keyboard, and then he started recently now using a controller, but he still can't hold a line. Well, okay, he can hold a line better than he did with keyboard, but still not enough.
Yeah, well, we know what
Gotta
a
give him some credit.
menace he was on keyboard. Mister
Yeah,
No Steering Assistance, have an ass.
yeah,
Um,
it was fun.
what's your preferred
Can't
number?
lie.
I know you're a Joey fan, but what's your preferred number?
Well, right now it is 22. Um, to use, you're talking about just number to use anywhere I go.
Yeah,
Would be the 22.
if you couldn't use 22, what would you pick?
Well, more recently now, it would be the 30 for Cleetus.
Okay.
And I feel like nothing's been announced other than by Michael Waltrip, who I think wasn't supposed to say it, but he did anyways during that
Yeah,
Nashville
Michael
race.
Waltrip's a
But,
menace to society too.
he was just like, Cleetus is going truck racing next year for Ram, and that Ram hadn't even announced what
That's
they're
crazy.
actually announced their car yet. So, but nothing's been official. But I'm curious to see what team, and if it's going to be a team and a truck that can actually compete.
You want
Because
to?
like the team he runs for in ARCA, I think could be top 5 at best. Because obviously nobody can really best Joe Gibbs in ARCA. Other than maybe Venturini, and I think he just sold his team, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
Venturini sold.
yeah,
It's
but
effective end of the year they sold. So I forget who the hell they sold to, but you want to hear a crazy hot take?
yeah,
So I was at work the other day, and I was talking to I'm fortunate to work with like 2 NASCAR fans and also like 2 or 3 F1 fans. It's actually hilarious that I finally got a job where there's a ton of motorsports fans. It makes it like
right.
the best job ever. But so one of my buddies, his name's Eli. He was telling me, oh, like another buddy of mine sent me a crazy hot take. You want to hear? I was like, sure. He said Connor Silich and Red Bull Racing Dodge 2027 in the Cup Series. I was like, no fucking way. I was like, no way. So Red Bull Racing comes back in Cup in 27 with Dodge of all manufacturers, and Connor Silich is the main driver. I mean, if he doesn't stick around with Trackhouse, maybe I feel like he's getting the Trackhouse seat, but I mean, I could see it. I mean, if Red Bull was like, hey, let's buy 2 charters and start a team with Dodge, they would have Zilich and SVG be their drivers. Like, that would be the
I feel
team.
like I feel like, yeah, I could definitely see that. My question to you is this. Oh, my screen went blank. um, who would you feel would be the Dodge teams in the Cup Series if and when Dodge comes back?
Oh, I feel
Do you
like.
do you do you think Penske would make the switch again?
I mean, why not? I mean, Ford's a little cluttered, right? You have Penske, you have Roush. I don't think Roush will leave Ford because they've always been Ford. I mean, that would be like Roush switching from Ford would be like the rumor that Richard Childress was gonna switch from Chevy to Dodge. Like that would just be crazy talk. Like they've just been with that manufacturer for so long. I could see Colleague switching to Dodge since they're kind of at the bottom. Maybe JTG, since they're kind of at the bottom of the Chevy ladder. Ford, I think Penske, if they want to, they could go to Dodge, but I'm not sure if they would because they technically are at the top of the Ford ladder, and I don't know if they would want to give that up.
Probably not, to be
And
honest, because
then,
I just still think it was funny that Penske had announced the switch from Dodge to Ford, and then Keselowski went on and won the title in the Dodge.
yeah, that was.
Dodge won the championship in NASCAR on their way out of the company.
Yeah, I mean that was the crazy thing because like they were still around in Xfinity and trucks for a couple of years, and then they like finally like just dropped support, and you only had like the back markers running any Challenger chassis they could find before they finally made them switch all to composite. So then the Challenger died, and the same thing happened to trucks with Ram. Um, it's crazy to say that Legacy Motor Club would maybe want to switch to Dodge because I think they're finally starting to get Toyota stuff, so they probably would not. And I don't think Toyota would want to see a team leave after just getting more seats since they always have so many development drivers coming up the ladder that get stolen by Chevy and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I would say probably Colleague and maybe JTG or um, another team that I'm not thinking of right now off the top of my head. Front row, maybe.
What about Rick Ware Racing?
Maybe Rick Ware. I mean, Rick Ware's with Roush, though, so they don't really have a reason to. They just get held back by Cody Ware. So, um, maybe Haas. Haas might because
Oh yeah, because Haas is a one-car team now.
they're a one-car team now, and they've been. I don't know if it's Custer or if it's just the team, but I think Custer's just not really good in these Cup cars. I think he was better in the Xfinity car. I think it's just. I think this style of Cup car, you can tell, like, because a lot of these guys go to Xfinity and they're all good in Xfinity, but then some of them just cannot hack it in this Cup car because of the dirty air. And then the way the metric system works, you're always qualifying first, so then you always start 20th or worse. And, the only guys you have really seen be able to dice their way through the field no matter what have been Blaney and Ross. Like Blaney and Ross can drive through the goddamn field like over
Well,
a race.
Logano can too, but only at certain tracks. I
Yeah.
feel like there are other tracks. Like I think, other than his one win that won on the championship at Homestead, Homestead's been one of his worst tracks. Like I don't really think I've seen him finish top 10 in any of the last Homestead races, unless I'm just not remembering correctly.
Hmm.
But there are certain drivers also that that pit road is what wins them their races. Like, if this was any other track, other than Mexico City, Shane Van Gisbergen's crew was terrible. Like he's had top 10. He's been in the top 10 at like some plate tracks and then some normal oval tracks, but then his pit crew fucks him over at the end because, and I'm sure they probably gave him a good pit crew specifically for Mexico because they knew he had a legitimate shot at winning.
You know what would
Personally, I
be
don't.
you know what
Go
would
ahead.
be interesting, sorry to cut your point off, but what if you have Trackhouse and Colleague go to Dodge and Red Bull buys in and you would have Silich and SVG, maybe one of them's at Trackhouse, not both, but one of them's at Trackhouse, one of them's at Colleague, and there's like Red Bull sponsorship on both cars, and those are your 5 Dodge cars in Cup. I could see that.
Well, yeah. How many cars switched to Dodge in 2001? Whenever Dodge first came back to the
You
sport,
had Petty, you had Evernham.
that's 4 cars right off the bat. You had who was it?
There were a couple others.
Bill Davis.
Bill Davis, yep.
So that was the 22 and 23 at the time.
There was the 7 car, the Sirius XM car. I don't remember what team that was for.
And then Bam Racing.
Bam Racing, the 49 car, yep. Yeah, Evernham was the 9 and the 19, eventually the 10.
Ray Evernham, yeah. Ray Evernham became... I'm talking about just when they first started, not over the years, but just when they first came back.
But it was just...
Ray Evernham was the spokesperson for Dodge.
Yeah, so funny little story too, and you know, I was talking to you before the podcast about the mock stuff I'm doing, you know, just for fun on NR. But one thing I was reading is when Dodge approached Ray to be at the anchor of the Dodge, bringing Dodge back, you know, they also had supposedly approached Jeff Gordon about it too, and you know, Ray and Jeff could have both been Evernham. It might not have been Bill, or Bill could have been there too, but it might have been Jeff Gordon, you know, with Ray Evernham at Evernham Motorsports. You know, that is a huge, like, butterfly effect right there, because then, you know, Gordon was the one who scouted out Jimmy. Would Gordon have still scouted out Jimmy, or would Gordon have, like, pressed Ray to give Casey Atwood more time? Because they were saying that Casey Atwood was going to be good, and then They gave up on him before the season was even over, and they threw him in shit equipment and killed his career.
Yeah, that's a big what-if question there. Is that why those two split up? Like, was it midway 2000 or no? It was
somewhere around there.
1999. It was midway 1999. I thought, like, Jeff got his next crew chief in like one of the Martinsville races. I think in '99. I thought, but yeah, I feel like that could have been it when they approached Ray and Ray said yes, and Jeff Gordon. Because I think Jeff was too loyal to Hendrick at that time.
Yeah.
Not just specifically his crew chief, but because of his car owner. But yeah, could you imagine if they would have ran a 24 Dodge or the 19? I guess, you know, it could have been both. Jeff could have, unless Ray told him not to. Jeff could have took the 24 and made it a Dodge for Ray Evernham, and could have still had the 9 and 19. You know,
yeah.
It's just one of those things, you never know. But, you know, my thing is, my only thing is I really hope that they put Cleetus in an actually decent car that can keep up. And my next question would be, is he going to be a part-timer, or is he going to be are they going to make him a full-timer? That's my other question.
There's the thing, right? Because full-time's a commitment. And I don't know if
YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's got it. I mean, he would have content every week. Like they would do vlogs and stuff. They would have plenty of content to do, but he would have to. He could do trucks. I think he would be content doing trucks full time, because trucks full time is still only, you know, 23, 24 weeks out of the season. It might be more now. I think they added a date. It might be 25 weeks now. I don't really remember. But
out of a 52 out of a 52 week
right.
year, yeah.
So trucks would be reasonable. You know, if you talk about him going full-time Xfinity and Cup, then I would be skeptical, because I'm sure he would like to run those cars part-time, but I don't think he would want to run them full-time, because, like I said, it is a long season. And Cup, yeah. you only get the one off week. So I think trucks full-time. You know, he could be a good truck lifer, like a Ben Rhodes, Matt Crafton, Ty Majeski, if he wanted to do it. But, you know, he's got so many other things he has his hands on, that it would be hard for him to dedicate to more than 25 races a year.
Yeah, I know that he said he has a goal of, he wants to, even if it's just one time in the future, race in the Daytona 500. And I feel like I could potentially see him in the next couple of years if he feels confident. He says he doesn't want to do anything until he feels like he's not going to be out there and be a nuisance. So I feel like maybe in the next coming years, Dale Jr. might put him in a JR Motorsports car in a Cup Series, just like how they did with Justin Allgaier, and give him a chance at running the 500. You know,
I could see that being another reason for a team like Trackhouse and or Colic to leave Chevy, because if Junior Motorsports does eventually go to Cup, now you got another Chevy team, and you know Dale Jr. ain't going to be running anything but Chevy. Like, he's been Chevy his whole life. Like, he ain't gonna do it. I think Tony Stewart didn't really even like switching the team from Chevy to Ford. You know, Stuart Haas, it was Chevy. That was a
I think
Chevy team.
Haas had the I think overall call on that one, I believe.
I think that's when Tony started to not
Drift out of it.
care for NASCAR as much because that's why he left Gibbs, right? He didn't want to drive a Toyota. Wasn't
True.
it? Because
Yeah,
they didn't
I
just
think it was that, yeah.
they didn't just kick him out for Joey Logano. You know, they didn't kick a 2-time champion out of. Tony was the best guy at Gibbs. Still, I mean, Kyle was hot and Denny was getting hot, but like they had no reason to kick Tony. Like if they were gonna throw Joey in the cup, they would have found the way to get him
in the 02. They could have just made a fourth.
Yeah.
That was a fifth car at that time.
No, it would have been
that would
fourth.
have been a fourth
Gibbs
car.
was still only 3-car. Yeah, that would have just been the 02 or something. Yeah. So I think Tony just couldn't stand being. I think Tony was always a Chevy guy. I mean, obviously he won his first title in Pontiac, but I think after that he was always a General Motors guy.
Well, yeah, which I think Pontiac was still General Motors.
Yeah, that's why I don't think
he was content with that. But,
plus, he was young.
I want to know. Yeah, and I want to know too. If Pontiac had never left the sport in 03, would Joe Gibbs? I mean, because 03 they switched to Chevy in 03. I still want to know what would happen if Gibbs never switched from Pontiac and they kept it a Pontiac and Pontiac never left the season. There's a YouTube channel out there. I don't remember what name it is, but they run like a what if season. Like they have a scenario where Dale Earnhardt never died.
Yep, I know the channel you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah,
I think Pontiac. I think they still would have been good for Pontiac if Pontiac was still interested. I think I think Tony still wins his 05 title. I see no reason that he couldn't have. And maybe they switch to Chevy at some point anyway down the line, or Toyota, but I think they would have been okay if they stuck around with Pontiac for a few more years, because the only one who really started to decline at Gibbs was Bobby. Bobby, for whatever reason, 04 was less than 03, and then 05 was just awful for him. So
was it 05 when he lost the 600 to Jimmy in the last lap? I don't remember what year that was.
Yep, that was 05. That was his last top 3 finish, I think, of his career.
Because then he went to Richard Petty in the 43, I think, the next year after
Petty.
the 06.
He was Petty from 06 to 08, and then after that, he
Hall of Fame racing.
Hall of Fame racing in the 96. Then there was the 71 Tax Slayer car, and then he ran part-time for Go Fast in its early days. Remember Go Fast?
Also, yes, I do.
Bobby and Terry ran for that car. Boris said.
He also ran, I think, the 47 in 2011.
Yes, that's right. JTG.
Because he was third in the 500 that year when Trevor Bayne won, because he pushed Trevor Bayne.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I was mistaken. There was one more top 3, but yeah, I think he drove for JTG for 2 years. I think. Wasn't it 11 and then 12, or was it just 11?
I don't remember.
It
might have been just 11.
But anyway, back to NR, because we've still got some pretty fun questions here. Who would you say the first person you butted heads with was?
You.
Me? Was it?
Yes, it was.
You're gonna have to tell me, because I forgot. I forgot what happened.
Because you're asking me to remember something a long time. I think it was honestly just you. It was your young back when you were a menace too. You can't deny and say that you weren't a menace.
I was a menace.
Because you were probably one of the first people I've ever seen Seth get legitly mad at. And it was just because of the cockiness. You've humbled up quite a lot since you first started racing.
I have. I think I've gotten more cocky. I just try to hold it back.
Yes, but that's still humbling up. Holding it back and not acting on it is humbling. It's humbling up. Like I mean, you were bitching, cussing, all that other kind of shit. You were worse.
It was like last night.
You were the person that you turned into last night over one car, but you were with that towards everybody. I mean, it was the point where nobody really wanted you in the team speak.
I was Trey Kinsey, man. I was Trey Kinsey.
You were Trey. Yeah, you were Trey Kinsey, but and I don't remember exactly.
Trey Kinsey's me.
But I know that there was a race that me and you collided in, and then like you lit into me for no reason at all.
I think I vaguely have an idea of. I don't remember the track, but I would say you're correct. There's definitely was probably a time I laid into you.
It was back when I was still getting used to racing at R.
Yeah, that's typically
And
who it would be at. It would be the people that had no, didn't really know what they were doing yet.
yeah, and it's happened a lot. That's why I used to actually care about the way I raced and the way people like were, if I got race shit like that, I would almost turn into you in a way. I would be so upset, pissed off. Oh, I'm gonna wreck this guy the next time I see him. And it's a lot different for me now because now it's like with Trey, like I knew. Or I should say it was Trey last week at Milwaukee when he actually just flat out dumped me. I was pissed for like 30 seconds. I was like, oh well, and that's kind of how I am now. Like it sucks. I was on a great run and I got taken out, but oh well, it happens.
That
Shit
was
happens.
like
It's a video game.
that was like I was telling Blaine in the interview last night. I was like, I wanted to just get back going and get back in my rhythm, but instead I had to pace under caution for 10 fucking minutes. So I'm just stewing for 10 fucking minutes, pacing around this goddamn track.
But that's also, it works to your favor too, because when you're pacing, you get a chance to let off and breathe. It's like, okay, I can breathe. I can get focused on what I need to do. I know what I need to do, so it's time to do it whenever you get back racing. So and yeah, I agree. I didn't really care that much for the cautions. Obviously, thank God there was only just one.
Well, there technically, I guess, should have been one for Dylan flipping, which is
but
funny.
Nobody called it out.
If there had been a yellow for that, I think I would have pit because I knew I had damage. I would have pit, and I said, you know what, I'm going to pit. I'm going to put 4 on it. I'm going to fill it up. We're going to fix the damage. And then maybe, who knows how the rest of the race would have played out because I would have had to fight my way through carnage again. But yeah, it was just a frustrating race.
Yeah, it was. Not even gonna lie, it was a frustrating. I mean, yes, and I'm the one that led pretty much the majority of the race, and I still think it was a horrible race. I mean, it's easy to look and see when people are using up their stuff, which is why I took it easy. While I was leading, I didn't rush. I didn't try to outbreak anybody. I was literally just braking a lot before I even did in qualifying, because I knew I had to save my tires as best as I could. So, that's how Trey caught up to me and then passed me that one time, is because I pretty much let him go because I wasn't trying to use up my tires. So, but yeah, it's you were the first person I think I ever legitimately had a beef with. And then, I mean, I'm sure there were definitely others after that, but nowadays I'm just like, I don't try to beef with anybody. If you're upset, then oh well, racing, it is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, yes, I try not to wreck people if I don't have to, but it's inevitable. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. All right. Yep. Next question: Who is your main rival, positive or negative? Most people just say positive. Like, who's someone you're always racing for position with?
Recently, Jack, you, and Joven.
Oh.
It's kind of how it's been, when it comes to Maverick. If neither one of you guys are racing, I mean, think back to our race at Kansas, in Maverick. That was probably the most fun race I've had. And what did I say that even before that race started? I just wanted to keep up with you guys.
Yeah, and you did.
Yeah, and I could have won if I. Joven was in that race too. He was just having a hell of a time in the back because he got stuck in traffic. Granted, again, the setup was pure ass for that, especially when it came to being in traffic. But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, here I am, because it's like I said in the interview for that race. I study you guys, you Zach. I study Jack. I try to watch. I almost consider you guys my mentors because I try to watch and learn how you guys get through the corner to see if I can apply that to myself and see if I can't get better. So, I guess my main rivals in good ways are you guys, the three of you, Joven, Jack, and you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I actually skipped the question earlier on my list here. I was going to ask who your first mentor was, so I'm happy to hear I'm a mentor now. I'm assuming probably Seth was maybe more of a mentor for you at the beginning since you were both on keyboard.
Yeah. Actually, well, I had two in a way at the same time as my first mentors, and that was actually Seth and Jess. Jess helped me out a lot getting set up for keyboard and stuff when I first started. So I can't say I can't not say her because she helped a lot. But yeah, now recently it's been you three because I mostly race Maverick now. I don't really have another race that or another series that I race in, so it
Okay.
100% is the three of you guys now.
All right. So two-part question.
Okay.
First, have you ever
No, I've
intent
never.
wrecked another driver? No, never. He says before so have you ever intent wrecked another driver? And if not, what's the dumbest thing you've ever done on the racetrack?
Uh, okay, I'll answer that in both ways. Yes, I have intently wrecked somebody on the racetrack. It was under caution in Maverick, and there's a short on Seth's YouTube channel about it. It was Maverick at Bristol, and I think this guy had wrecked me under yellow, and I was obviously able to get my spot back. We all came down pit road. He got out. I got out ahead of him barely, but he still took off like he thought he was in front of me. So I went up to him under caution, catching up to the pace car, and I kind of drove my rear quarter panel into his front bumper, and it spun him out into the wall. And all you hear me say is oops. Uh, and then I just drive off. I don't exact. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can on my own here pull up that clip because I want to know what I said. But oh, it was the most hilarious thing in my mind, and I never even got called for it.
Do you remember who the
uh,
driver was? I mean, it was old, so they're not going to do anything.
well, it was last year. Was it a Brazilian driver? Hold on, I can look it up here real quick. And while I answer your other question, which was the stupidest thing I think I've ever done on a racetrack, would be probably my first ever race, which was doing the money shift.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh no, I remember what I said. I said, oh, hitbox.
Hitbox. That's a good one. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I had I will say last night I regret dooring the shit out of Mateus Yankee after he, supposedly his screen froze, and I was so you've seen the clip. A lot of people have seen the clip. Personally, it's hilarious how much I was raging over almost getting dumped when I had already been in two wrecks. So that was probably why I was so angry about almost getting dumped. I had already been, wrecked in the turn one, and then I got Dylan Younged, as we like to say. And I just turned left and doored him into the wall and almost wrecked myself. He would have been fine. I think when I bounced off of him, I almost got. I actually, if you look at my stream, I almost hit an opening on the pit wall side. There's a little opening there. Man, if I had hit that opening, it would have shot me straight left, and it probably would have been a caution, and I would have been so embarrassed. But
Yeah,
I know how to drive, so I caught it.
well, I think the fact that neither of you wrecked is probably why nothing was called on you. Because if he had wrecked after you turn that, Keith probably would have called that on you because Keith off tracks, so he was.
Yeah,
He
he
was probably
saw it
watching the
live.
whole thing.
He
Yeah, he
said
was probably watching the whole thing.
he told me after, I think, because he knew I was going to be like passing people. He was given. He told me he was given Tate play-by-play, and he said he was laughing his ass off when it happened. He probably would have still laughed, but then he probably would have had to penalize me.
Yeah, but you see, and you can have fun in Maverick. It's they say it's a myth to have fun in Maverick, and in certain tracks you can. Other tracks not so much. Like for instance, like the track we're going to in 3 weeks, Daytona. The only reason you're not going to have fun there is because there are going to be people who arc a brake, which is they're just going to plow into mostly Ben,
Yeah, no, thank you.
probably plow into a wreck when everyone's slowing down. And that's the one thing that sucks about is you want to be at the front because most of the wrecks will happen behind you. And what sucks about that is when you get into obviously your pit strategy, which is going to be if you have to pit, you're going to place yourself in the back because you want to be like RTG where you want to pit the second time by. to get the most gas for the most mileage. And then you're going to be out back in the pack. And then as soon as you have somebody behind you, it's even when there's a wreck happening in front of you, you're looking in the mirror when you're hitting the brake.
Yep.
But it's going to be interesting, just to say the least. And yeah, it's you can have fun, and then other days it just makes you want to pull whatever hair you have left out.
What's the biggest race or championship you've won on NR?
Well, I can say I think I've only ever won one championship, and that was Qualls' NASCAR Grand National Series.
Oh, I remember
he ran
that.
a couple years ago.
I ran Watkins Glen. I think that was it.
Yeah, and I was
won
pissed
that race.
because I wanted to win, but you ended up running.
Yeah,
I think I finished second to you. I think I finished second to you that race.
I remember that was back when Aiden Lacasse still ran under his alias Roger Ray, and I remember giving him tips for that track.
Oh yeah, I remember Roger. Yeah.
Or Aiden now, but yeah.
Yeah. But I won the championship there. I won a bunch of races there. I actually wrecked. I wrecked at Bristol and still came back and won the race. But that was probably the only championship I won. The biggest race I would consider me winning, other than maybe Mavericks Talladega last season because it was broadcasted, probably would have been the first ever race I won, which was I think my second or third ever start at that California track, because I was actually a pretty dominant force. Got a black flag early on in that race that's under caution that sent me to the rear of the field, and I just was able to get my way back up to the front. And I think it was Lyndon Wright who I passed.
Oh boy,
with a couple of laps to go, and then the caution came out, which made the race finish under yellow. But that would probably the Cheez-Its.
Yeah, talk about anger at the beginning of this episode, man. Lyndon Wright was the most unsuspecting guy who would get hot. You wouldn't hear him talk too much, and then next thing you know, you're reading a Facebook post that he broke another monitor, and it's just like, damn, this guy gets mad. Yeah. Like I never knew. Yeah, I think he went.
It was at Auto Club that happened. It wasn't the race I won, but it was at a Auto Club race.
Yes, I remember. Yep.
He disconnected randomly, and then lo and behold, after the race, he set the picture of his monitor or monitors, and it was just he said he bashed him with a hammer.
Yeah, talk about a guy that just got like crazy angry out of nowhere. It'd be cool to have him back, but maybe he I don't know, he just kind of ran out of money to get new monitors or something. Because I think he had broken a few of them.
Yeah, I feel like he's got his computer and everything back. I just don't think he races much anymore because I feel like that exact same thing would happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like at that point he's just like, it's not worth breaking monitors and having to buy new ones.
Yeah, don't put yourself in the position if you think you can't handle it, kind of thing. That's why I'm, Watkins Glen will be my last Maverick start, and then I don't think I'm gonna go back because it can just be really annoying at times.
I want you personally to run at least one of the last two remaining super speedway tracks. I just want you to run one of them. I know you don't like it, but I want you to try.
You want me to do what?
I want you to at least try.
Ugh. God. Like Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino.
Right? Like, even if you have to run under the alias of Adam Cole. Which
I ain't doing that.
You don't want to do that either.
I ain't doing that. I am never going to run under no alias.
No, I remember when...
Adam Cole. Dwayne Johnson.
When Joven was racing under Dwayne Johnson and he won I think it was one of the races after Watkins Glen, and I finished. It was Talladega that I won, and I accidentally gave it away who it was. Not to the broadcast, but to when I went down when they moved me out. Back down to the waiting room.
They knew. Ben
happened to have been there, and I just was just like Joven, and he goes, "Oh, so Joven's Dwayne Johnson." I said, "Fuck." I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, they know Adam Cole is Joven anyway. I mean, Keith said Ben don't care. Like Ben's just happy he's there. Which, it's fine. But
I remember when
I will say, and I'm not gonna name names, but I think when it gets literally ridiculous when you have somebody race as somebody else who is in the championship and they go out and win the race. Then I have a problem.
I know who you're talking about now. I don't think that much matters because he's not really in the championship hunt anyways.
It's yeah, but I think the
Well,
funny
the only
part,
thing
the
I would
funny
say
part of it is, oh yeah, so said person A drove under person B's name, and then person B posted the win to their Facebook and counted it as a win.
yeah,
Like that, it's
yeah. So
hilarious. That's goofy.
it's hilarious, but I think that would be the one thing I don't agree with, in my honest opinion. Like, cool, you ran, you won the race, that's great, but you did it for somebody else and told them to post it as a win because you didn't want them to get in trouble.
I think I actually told them you better post it or they're gonna know.
Yeah, it could have been you, which could have been why they did it. Yeah, but either way, I mean, we call it a meme league because it pretty much is. It's the ARCA series. I would go ahead and call it the ARCA series of the NR 2003 online community.
If Arca got the most car counts every week.
Yeah, I was gonna say it draws a lot of cars. So Ben's racing ability may not be the best. We all know that, but his ability to draw a crowd to race is awesome. What do you call that? Promoting or marketing?
Promoting, marketing, yeah.
Call it both, yeah.
Well, promoting, because there were times in the 70s where they wouldn't get to run certain races because they weren't able to promote it in time. Because, think about it, back in the 70s, it was newspaper.
Yeah. And, but, his ability to promote for his series is amazing. That's why I would love to have him, promote if I were to run a series. He signed up for it and everything, and I was and then people were telling me, no, don't let Ben promote because then you'll have everybody who sucks come over. And I'm like, that might be the case, but at least I would get car counts because yes, I love racing with friends, but having races to be able to have with a higher car count, 10 cars is probably great in my opinion because my series only the top 10 got points.
Yeah,
I like that.
There's not a lot of series that can get consistently 20 plus.
Yeah.
You have Maverick, and then you have Hobo. Hobo's good about getting 20 plus, and then RTG their Tally Challenge, and now Barebones too. Barebones has been pulling good numbers, better numbers than last year.
It's been broadcasted now.
But even a league like IFAR will get a huge field for their opener, then they'll get a decent field for the second race, and then they'll get decent fields for a few more races. But once they get past their fourth or fifth race, unless it's a track that people really like to run, they're not even getting 15. And it was the same with Fast. We started Fast, we had a huge field at Daytona, we had a 20 plus at Atlanta, and then we had 20 or so at Coda, and then right after Coda, it fell off the map to 15 or less. And some weeks, in the last month, a lot of weeks in the last month, we can't even really hardly get 10. And if we do get 10, it's exactly 10. Michigan, we got lucky. We got 16. That race was broadcasted, so we'll see if Pocono rebounds and we get 16 Sunday because Andrew's going to do that one. But for Mexico, we only got 10, and three or four of the guys were wrecked out before halfway because it was such a tricky track.
Was that Mexico track the updated one, or was it one of the older?
It was the new one, yeah. It was the Area 23 one.
Oh, with the stadium and everything too.
Yeah, we ran the stadium.
I definitely wouldn't mind trying to run that just for the fun of it, just to see what it's like. But
it's a fun track. You had to really
Fast has the EXC that allows 5 gears in those cars, right?
No. The only thing with the EXE is it's a different source code, so it prevents cheating. If people because there's a lot of EXEs out there that are made for different eras, but the person who made the EXEs for the different eras never changed the source code. So you can take that EXE and go into any server that's running the regular EXE, and you can cheat using it.
Right.
And, with Fast, anyone that uses the Fast server is using the modified EXE code. So they would have to know how to edit the Fast EXE itself in order to cheat it Fast. And then even then, that would be fairly obvious because you have Randall, who's been around a long time and knows, he kind of knows how to see if someone's cheating or not. Then you have Fast guys like me and Joven and Josh Moyers all race there. Dunn LaPrade races there. Jack sometimes races there. So like you have a good group of guys that are already at the limit. So like if someone were to come in and try to cheat, like you would know. So
Yeah.
You mentioned a few moments, but are there any other like funny moments between you and myself that you can recall?
Ooh.
Darlington.
Yeah.
What was
Darlington, that
it?
started a whole meme. I was just like, they were telling me like, "Oh, you're not gonna catch Zach." I'm like, I'm just having fun. And then as soon as I said that, I broke loose in turn 3 and started
I'm not
screaming,
having
"I'm not
fun
having
anymore.
fun anymore!"
Classic.
Oh, that killed Seth. I mean, he was just dying laughing. But it was funny. Other than that, I don't know anything else. But yeah, that was just hilarious. It's just I'm just having fun, guys, going in the corner. Oh, I'm not having fun anymore. And I just hated that was the first thing that came into my mind as soon as I started spinning.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. Um, here's a good question. This is a four-parter, so if you need me to remind you of the parts during your answer, feel free to just say so. Favorite
Okay.
mod, favorite track, favorite league to race at, and favorite physics type. And you can answer in
Ooh,
any order.
okay.
You don't have to
All
go in
right.
order. You can start with league or physics if you want, whatever's
All
quicker.
right. I would say CTS physics. Um, it's a tough choice in the league because of I only really run one league nowadays.
You could
But
say a pass league too if you like. Something that
um,
used to run but doesn't run anymore.
I would say out of the two races I've ran with RTG, I'd like RTG, but if I had to pick one I've run full seasons in, it would have to maybe be Icebreakers.
Mm-hmm.
Although, Nick just comes in and dominates the races anyways. Um, mod, I would have to say I do like the Gen 7 mod, the next gen mod. I do like that. Um, so I'll have to say so far that's my favorite. And what was that last part again?
Track.
Track.
And you can pick a
This is
particular version if you want, but you don't have to because there's so many for a lot of tracks.
trying to think of the ones I do good in. Well, I guess I could say Watkins Glen because I do enjoy maybe the 2017 Watkins Glen
Okay.
more recently because I do actually really enjoy racing there, and I feel like I can be competitive even with you road course ringers.
Okay. So did you say you've dabbled in iRacing at all?
Yes, I have. I have a couple of iRacing wins and a couple of iRacing videos on my channel.
Okay. What has kept you running NR as opposed to going balls deep in the
Money.
iRacing? Money. Yep. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's mostly been money and computer storage because it seems like every 2 days there's some type of update for iRacing that I
Oh
just
yeah.
am. It was just draining my CPU. But I mean, I liked iRacing. Don't get me wrong. I to race in a couple of leagues there. I actually did what was I don't want to say it wasn't IMRC, but it very well could have been IMRC when they used to have the iRacing thing. But there was another. Oh, it was Upper Edge, the league with Matt Rod and them, the Super Speedway league that they did. I used to run on that a lot. That was really fun. And then I had a bunch of different wins, D fixed, C fixed, you know, Xfinity wins. A lot of them coming on the Super Speedways, but one of my most favorite wins I think was I don't want to say Iowa. Iowa was my first truck win, but it was a Truck Series race at Gateway that I started second. I was running second for a while, but I realized how to drive the racetrack about midway into the correct way to drive it midway into the race, and I took the lead and was pretty much gone. And I almost lost it on a green white checkered finish when cars pit and I stayed out. But there's enough cars that stayed out that the cars that came in for fresher tires were not able to catch me, and I went on to win the race. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, pretty much money is what kept me out of running iRacing. And the fact that a good thing was the fact I got to run a Talladega race with Hermie Sadler.
Oh, nice. How many people from the community have you met in real life? I know you go on a lot of the NNSCRA trips.
Let's see. Seth, Dylan, Joven, I've met real life. Carson. who else was there? Anthony, Autumn, even though she doesn't race, but still. Nick, whose grapes I stole at the most recent Bristol trip. And I think actually that's about it. So about 7, I want to say. Could have had the opportunity. Oh no, 8 because I met Poteet as well at this year's 500. So
Okay.
if I would have saved enough money to go onto the Indy trip, I would have met Matt McIntyre, Danny, and Ulysses. But unfortunately, because the Daytona trip drained me, I couldn't go.
You could have had a chance to meet
Oh,
Jeffrey
I met Kyle.
Goodpaster too if you had gone
Yeah,
to Indy.
I met Kyle Matthews as well when I went to, when me and Dylan and all them went to SummerSlam last year
Awesome.
at the Cleveland Stadium.
Nice. For other interests from motorsports, do you have any interests in music, movies, TV shows, etc.? I know you mentioned wrestling.
Wrestling, for TV show wise, that's pretty much it. I dabble in the arts of anything Gordon Ramsay, and
Okay.
bar rescue. Bar rescue's been another big thing for me. I'm pretty sure with enough of both of them that I watch, I could probably own a restaurant and a bar at this point. um, as for movie or TV show I used to watch a lot of is Sons of Anarchy.
Okay.
That was a really good show when it was on.
My
I think I started
stepfather
watching.
watched. My stepfather watched that, and I was too young for it at the time, but it's one of the shows that I would try to watch if I get around to like thinking like, hey, yeah, I should binge Sons of Anarchy. Same with Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad would be another one that I would go
No,
back to watch.
I've never seen that one. I have all 7 seasons of Sons on my PlayStation before they took off all the video and movies that you can't buy anymore.
Oh damn.
um, one of my favorite movies, if I had to list them in order, would be the Back to the Future trilogy, Twister and Twisters, the most recent one. Um, Days of Thunder, which I don't know if you've heard the news or not, but Tom Cruise pretty much confirmed that they are
Yeah,
making a Days of Thunder 2.
yeah, I heard through
Um,
Gordon. Yeah, Gordon announced that. Yep.
what
Be
else? I
curious
love
how they
horror.
do that.
Yeah, I would too. I love horror movies. It really, preferably anywhere between Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, and Ghostface. Um,
Scream.
yep.
Good old Scream.
I consider myself a movie critic in a way because like I've always said I wanted to be a producer or director. I've never gone to school for any of it, but I love editing videos. I love the knowledge of being like, oh, this being able to listen to music and then in my head picture a scene either from a movie or just in general, like a type of scene where it would fit the best in. Um, so it's a lot of times when I go to like see a movie or a new movie come out, I'm just like, oh, I enjoy the movie, but I'm also at the side like, oh, well, this could have been better. This music doesn't fit here, or they should have done this, or this was rushed. They should have waited or added another for a filler. But like, and then all the
Mm.
so far the Sonic trilogies as well has been my most recent
Speaking
favorite
of
movies.
Sonic, you remind me. I still need to watch the second movie before I watch the third because I really want to watch the third movie, but I haven't even seen the second one yet. So I need
I
to
say,
get around to that.
tell me I have both movies. We can watch it.
I just like watching stuff solo now.
I know. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have the
I
second
gotcha.
one on YouTube and the third one on YouTube as well.
Okay, yeah. Personally, for me, movie wise, I actually just went to the movie theaters for the first time this year. This past weekend, I went and saw Ballerina, which
Ooh,
is part of
The
the
John
John
Wick
Wick.
series.
Yep, John Wick series. Yep. Really good. If you haven't seen it, I recommend seeing it. It's set between John Wick 3 and 4. So Keanu is in the movie and he's got a pretty decent role to play towards the end. So, small spoiler there if you haven't seen it, but there's some really cool scenes of action at the end that I was like, "Oh, I love this that they did this." So, pretty cool. Pretty cool. They'll probably make a second one. There were no mid-credit scenes or anything, but I would say there will most likely be a second one at some point.
Yeah. I know they're already making a Sonic that should be 2 years from now. I'm assuming it's going to be 2 years from now, or maybe next year, depending on how fast they get it. I know James Marsden's going to be really busy with filming the Marvel movie coming up because he's going to be Cyclops in that movie. Um, so I wonder if
Which
obviously they got
actor is that?
James Marsden. He's the main guy character in the Sonic movies.
Okay. So he's Cyclops for Marvel? Cool.
He's gonna be he's gonna be Cyclops from Marvel. Also, and I have to say this too, in terms of TV show series, it's been The Last of Us. Me and Seth have watched every episode,
I was
every
gonna
season
say,
of every season.
you reminded me that when The Last of Us came out, that was like that was one of the series Seth ran for offline. The Last of Us series.
The Last of Us Light series. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that one.
Another horror-esque movie coming out this year that I'm gonna go see is Five Nights at Freddy's 2,
Okay.
which unironically enough is coming out around Christmas time.
Yeah, I saw the teaser
But
for that. The teaser just came out the other day.
I can't really say I'm a lore fanatic of FNAF. I just actually really enjoyed watching people play the games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a little of the lore because I watched like a animation series that someone did
Hmm.
for like the Springtrap origin and stuff. So I know some of the lore on that. I did forget until I saw a YouTube clip of the end scene in the movie, the first movie, that the actor for William Afton, the name's eluding me, Matthew Lillard.
Matthew Lillard,
Yeah, Matthew
Shaggy.
Lillard, Shaggy. Yeah, Shaggy from the Scooby Doo movies and in the first Scream movie. It is William Afton, which I thought was pretty cool.
I think he signed on to do 3 movies after before the first one, which gave away obviously that they were going to make more.
Yeah,
um, but and then apparently also he's coming back as Stu in Scream 7 coming out.
really.
As well as like half the other cast of all the other movies. So this is going to be an all-star Scream 7 movie. So I actually kind of stopped watching Scream after I think the third one because I think at that point it really just got repetitive.
Yeah, it's a repetitive
But
franchise. It's not like Saw or something. Like if you watch Saw, like there's a bit more of a puzzle thing going on there with that franchise or
which
Final
I like,
Destination.
Saw. Final Destination 3 is a main reason why I don't like roller coasters. Um, or tanning beds.
Final
But
Destination 2 is why I will not stay behind a log truck on the highway.
same, and everybody. I think you can ask Seth, and he'll say the same thing. He came up. He was driving behind one at one of our trips, and I told him to move to the next lane. um, but yeah, I mean, and then of course you can always say, I told Kyle, Kyle, so right before you get on an airplane to come down, you should watch Final Destination. No, everyone thinks I was weird because prior to going on a plane, I used to watch a lot of the air disaster videos about plane crashes. And I'm just like, well, I'm just trying to do research to see where's the best part of the plane to sit at to survive.
Just ask the guy on the India plane.
Yeah, the fact that he just walked
Right-
out like nothing happened
right
tells
at-
me that somebody was watching over him.
He was right at the emergency exit door, and he was able to get his seatbelt off, jump, open the door, and get out right before it blew up. Because the plane exploded before,
Before it came to a stop.
I don't know if it was before it came to a stop or if it was just like it crashed and then he was able to get out and then it blew up, like the fuel finally ignited and then it just went kaboom.
Yeah, well, it had to have been took off on it wrecked on takeoff, not landing.
Yep. Yeah, it was only
So-
600 feet up.
Yeah, and then at that point when you can see it, if you're gonna take out of an emergency exit, you want to wait till you're just low enough that it's not gonna at the worst you're gonna get some broken bones. But yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, it's Kyle doesn't like to fly. I would tell you that much right now. But I think he is gonna get on a plane to come down here later this year. So it's gonna mark the second time in 2 years that I should see Kyle because he's coming down in the beginning of August.
Right on. All right. Well, sorry to yawn there.
Tired?
No, I'm not tired. I was taking a breath and there was a yawn in there. Well, I don't got really anything else,
Do you
so
remember the name of your podcast?
yeah, I did. Who's that driver with Michael Norman, episode 14. Golly, we're
There you go.
already closing towards 25. I mean, it's still 11 to go, but it's crazy. You know, the I had this idea for the podcast like a couple of years ago, and then Tristan Grace, who you've raced at with at Maverick last year a couple times, he had his own podcast last year, the McBasket Cast, and he was having people on. He did more like new stuff with NR. Like he kind of had a more like strict 1 hour segment going on. But I was able to be on his show, and we had a good time. And so he tried to he stopped at the end of the summer because of college and stuff, and then he like tried to bring it back over the winter, and it didn't really stick. So it kind of made me really want to start this, and I had Lamas make the logo, and it just took having to schedule people up, and here we are, 14 episodes deep. So
Who do you got in your list for the next couple episodes?
I don't even have an order to it yet.
Well, okay, who do you want then? That'd be a better
So
question.
a few people that are on. There's two people that are on like a standby type of thing where it's like if they're available they'll let me know. Um, so I'm looking forward to having them on at some point, and then there are two people who I asked actually before you if they would want to be on, but they are older and have kids and stuff, and they're really busy, so they're like, I'll let you
I mean, I'm
know, kind of
I mean,
thing.
I'm old too.
Yeah, but you don't got kids. I'm 28.
Yeah,
Who are you saying you're old, man?
I'm 32.
Okay, well, I guess that's kind of getting there, but
I
um
guess.
yeah, so there's two people that are on like a spur of the moment type of deal where they'll like let me know or whatever, and then there's two other people that are like, yeah, we'll like figure something out at some point, like would love to be on kind of thing. I need to get Joven on here at some point.
Yes, you do.
I'm not sure if he'll be next. He is awful about answering his Discord messages now. He doesn't really go on Discord too much anymore. So, he's awful about answering his Discord messages. So, but yeah, I'm not really sure who I'll have on next. We'll see.
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
This was fun.
if you got any shout outs, the floor is yours, Michael.
You know, shout out to everybody who has at one point painted a scheme for me. Uh, Mostly been RJ, Seth, Cody. I think I had even Blake. Um, Blake actually has painted some cars for me too. So appreciate all of them that have made my NR career easier. Um, Zach, you, Jack, and Joven have all been, like I said, mentors to me. So I appreciate you guys, even unintentionally, showing me, what to do, and giving advice on how to run certain racetracks and everything. Like I think I did as good as I did at Road America because you told me about the curves and everything. So, and I've been for some reason in Maverick, I've been really good at Road America. I just always have had something happen to me. But I really appreciate it. I've been where I have been because of the NR community itself. I really appreciate that and all the friends I've made along the way. I hope to be able to meet most of you that I haven't met yet, in the near future. Just got to keep in contact with whenever we're able to be, have free time to meet up, to go to races or whatever it is that they're doing. Like I think Seth's done for the year in terms of trips, so hopefully we can start looking about next year where to go. I think we've been talking about going to Charlotte for the 600 weekend before, but that'll definitely be something interesting in the near future. But thanks, Zach, again. This was fun, and appreciate you having that time to interview.
Right on. Well, thank you for coming on. So that's Michael Norman here on Who's That Driver, episode 14. Title to be determined. Y'all will already know the title once you click on the video, but title to be determined. Might just call it The Bitch and censor it a little bit.
Or just call it Your Face, because even though I haven't made a one year face joke this entire podcast.
Actually, you know what? I'm not having fun anymore. Bam. That's
Yep,
the
there you
title.
go.
That's the title right there. So, but yeah, and we'll see who we get on for episode 15. So thanks for listening. Appreciate all the support, and see y'all for the next one.
Hell yeah, brother.